We're doing it live.
It's live.
Welcome back, folks. We normally David Schuster sitting there. He grew a gray beard. He's hiding out, is what he's doing.
Hey, the witness protection program, it's good, man. Like
Yeah.
the plastic surgery these days.
Right. I mean, they took everything straight from Mar-a-Lago, and they are experts now. Like they took the whole Bezos regimen, if you will.
I'm waiting on the lips.
Yeah. Lefty Gramps, my friend from Ohio, you're gonna find this episode interesting, and you may already even know some of these things. But that's the thing, folks. First of all, welcome to Amped Up with Cliff Schecter. I am Cliff Schecter. We do not have David Schuster. He's away on vacation. I suspect he would have wanted to have been here for this one. You'll see why soon enough. I have the great Lawrence Winterman here with me. There he is, of the Daily Whatever, which you should be watching if you're not, at 10 a.m. Eastern, 5 days a week these days. Lawrence is on 4 days, but of course his great co-host Dana Dubois, so French, is on co-hosting, and you should be watching that because they do great shit.
French.
Oh, ouais, mais oui, c'est vrai ça.
Oui, oui.
So I'm trying to make jokes because the truth is I don't even know how to get to this topic, and it's because the guys, like, I feel like we're going to get to a point here where everybody. Hi, Kitty.
Cliff. Ripley wants to know.
Yeah.
What's going on in Ohio, Cliff?
You know, when you think Donald Trump, when you think Jeffrey Epstein, when you think the absolute lowest scum sucking, puddle dwelling, just of the universe, you think, I mean, obviously a lot of these folks are based in the coasts. I'm from there originally. I even have a New York Yankees jacket on. And so no criticism. It's just like, you move out here to Ohio and you figure you're not going to be in the center of this whole universe of Epstein hell. And it turns out you're largely, at least somewhat, I won't say complete universe center of it because it seems to be everywhere, but this is a central node in it.
Yeah.
And
the Ohio node.
Call it the Ohio node. Yes. And what I found out just, doing some research, just what's come out here the last week, which again, most major media is on the coast, so they don't really notice. If there's a tornado in Ohio, they might notice. They'll pay attention if the Buckeyes win the championship or something, which we are going to be talking about Ohio State. But when there's an entire web of Epsteins, and I guess it's almost like you're charting this out is almost impossible, right? Because there's so many webs, it seems, in so many different places.
Yeah.
But an entire web where I start looking through it, start seeing the connections at Ohio State. I don't know why there are not more people talking about this. A week ago, well, let's start with, you have Jeffrey Epstein. Along came a spider.
Yes.
And that creepy, despicable
motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever. What he did, what it's alleged in the files where Donald Trump is mentioned 950,000 times. We want to exaggerate, say 1 million, only 950,000 times.
Right.
Is so repulsive, is so sickening. It should upend the entire universe, frankly. And it is going to upend a lot of things because this is going to come out before this election. But let's get to some of it here where I am sitting, or at least within roughly 100 miles of where I'm sitting. I'm in Cincinnati, up in Columbus, Ohio State. You just keep noticing stuff. And if you notice patterns, Lawrence, and you're a smart man, you do.
Yeah, I notice patterns. There's a lot of connections to the Ohio State University, my friend.
Well, you start asking yourself, you're like, why? So there's an OBGYN professor who was being funded at $75,000 a year retainer by Jeffrey Epstein. And he was getting it FedExed, which was kind of nice. Apparently that's okay, right? Oh, there's a creepy weirdo who's paying you money for what? And, but acceptable stuff. But then what you realize is like you're saying to yourself, oh, Ohio State. Oh, that is the alma mater of Les Wexner of the Limited, which is not far off from porn. Based
and
in
also Victoria's Secret and Pink, the store that sells teeny tiny little lacy underwear to girls.
Yep.
little girls.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's what I
Les
was thinking
Wexner,
of.
who's
Like,
being deposed today.
yeah. Oh, right. Could it be? It could be
Finally?
less. And how is it that, like, just seeing Victoria's Secret, we didn't know what this person was up to? But I digress. He's a
Yeah.
billionaire. He's the only one of all of these that I've seen. We tried to get our good pal and contributing editor here, Ellie Leonard, who's obviously
An
made
expert on
herself
all things Epstein.
indispensable on this issue.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going to tell you things that I'm pretty sure of. She would have been 100% sure, but I am pretty sure that Les Wexner is the only one who gave Epstein, this guy who was a failed math teacher at Dalton in New York, a rival of a school I went to. That's what I mean. The connections to my life in different places are so strange. But how he ended up where he ended up, and Wexner gave him power of attorney to manage his money. He
Right.
literally could make
Billions of dollars.
Yes, decisions for him. So this guy, this one billionaire who allowed him to make all these decisions, his name is all over Ohio State, like on numerous buildings because of all the money he's given there. So a professor there magically ends up getting this kind of funding from Epstein. I looked around, I was trying to find it. And I'm like, oh, look, it looked to me as Wexner funded some other aspects of that department. What were they doing there? I don't know. But the point is they're funding this guy, and there had to be a reason behind it. But he's part of this node. You look further, and you find out that the lawyer who had kind of built this like relationship and is still involved with the board of trustees at Ohio State, filed an amicus brief in favor of Ghislaine Maxwell. You look further and you find out, reported this past week, that guess what? In his attempt to quash, I believe is that the legal term?
Yeah, right. Quash.
Subpoena to have to show up in court to talk about the other sex scandal at Ohio State that was going on at the same time. Dr. Richard Strauss, who was molesting wrestlers. Who would you want to guess who the coach of that wrestling team was at that time?
The wrestlers, they wrestle in a gym. Jim Jordan.
Yes, it was Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
We have testimony from one of the former wrestlers who ripped into Jordan in front of the Ohio State House, talking about how Jim Jordan begged, he cried, he said, for 40 minutes with my brother, who was also a wrestler, his actual brother on the team, telling him to lie, telling him not to be truthful about what happened. We have numerous wrestlers, another coach who coached along with Jordan, and a referee, all who have said, there's no way Jim Jordan could have not known about this. Everybody knew about it.
Right.
Where is the outrage? Where's the fact that Jim Jordan hasn't had his fucking ass yanked into a courtroom somewhere and thrown into a chair and been held accountable for this? That's what I want to know.
I'm not so good with the politics stuff, the politicking, but doesn't Jim Jordan have another job these days?
Well, yes, he does. He does, and that's the thing. So he hasn't been tossed into a court to be held accountable for what he knew and asked under oath, and why. I'd love to ask somebody who prosecutes why if numerous people, including wrestlers, a referee, and another coach, are saying he knew, there's no way he couldn't have known. That's what we call evidence, and that should be strong enough to ask these questions. But so Les Wexner, now billionaire, named in the Epstein files for a number of despicable acts with underage girls. It's still alleged, but it's in there. Connection to this professor, Liv Epstein, is also connected to Ohio State, and is being forced to testify because is he connected? Do they think he knew something about what was going on with Richard Strauss? And by extension, Jim Jordan. That's not why. I mean, it's Richard Strauss he's being asked in there for, but I'd love to know what he knows about Jim Jordan's knowledge of it. And I'd like to also add, are these two things connected? Is there a connection between these two scandals? Do these folks, it's like when animals like lions spot each other in the wild. Do predators spot each other in the wild?
Right.
Do they?
And there's some like predator communication that they do,
Right,
and they're like, "Oh, you're raping little girls. I'm raping little boys. Let's get together and form a party."
right. I mean, it is like I just reading through this stuff. So we've got Professor Guy now,
Yeah.
OBGYN, by the way. Ew.
Ew.
And we've got Les Wexner, billionaire. We have got Jim Jordan, wrestling coach, and now congressman. So who would you think was when Pam Bondi came in and put on that little horse and pony show? Well, how dare you attack me and question
How dare
my
you accuse me of a crime?
how dare you and how dare you accuse me of a crime? As I sit here and I read from your personal your personal internet lookup history, which is a
Right.
crime.
Yeah.
How dare you do that? Why? The person chairing that committee was Jim fucking Jordan. So
Oh,
Jim Jordan is chairing a hearing into Epstein's supported, how they covered up the Epstein, the Epstein files, so people don't know more of what happened when Jim Jordan, for all we know, may be in there. And Dr. Strauss, who he knew was raping kids, is probably in there.
yeah.
And Les Wexner, who a big alum who gave lots of money to the school, is in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's
So
insane.
I'm sensing a
This whole
catchphrase. If it's somebody from Ohio and they're accused of pedophilia, they're in there. They're probably in there.
they probably are.
Well, you
And
know what's
and it's
good, Cliff? The silver lining out of all of this is it's not like there are any up and coming politicians currently running for office in Ohio in 2026 who are going to be impacted by this, right?
well, it's funny you should say that.
Hmm.
Because as I would point out that Jim Jordan, actually, was right there when this was going on,
Yeah.
and there were folks who knew about this clearly, in that universe of Republican politicians. And I'm sure before Jim Jordan ran for office, he was probably kissing Republican politicians' asses in the Republican Party and had aspirations and that kind of thing. But whatever he knew or didn't know about this other gentleman, well, right now, and guys, this is going to destroy the Republican Party across this country. I don't want to get too over optimistic. They are still going to try to steal the elections.
Yeah.
They've telegraphed it, everything, from the SAVE Act to the Fulton County raid, I would call it, to the demanding that Minnesota, if you don't get a nice city there, we wouldn't want to have to blow it up if you give us your private
Voter
information.
rolls. Yeah.
Voter rolls. Even the information that it's now clear that Elon Musk stole from Treasury, people's social security numbers and other stuff can be used to match people to voting rolls. This is all about voting because they know they're evil pieces of shit who are incompetent and stupid, and they're going to
The
get
only way
crushed.
that they can win is by cheating. The
What?
only way they can win
But
is
not
by
the
cheating.
normal cheating. See, not
Right.
the normal cheating, and that's a good segue that John Husted helped them do. Our next one up in the barrel here. John Husted currently is running for the Senate against Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown just had an ad out, and he just texted out to folks on his list, that includes me, about the fact that John Husted has taken over $100,000 from Wexner, including as recently as last year when we knew all of this. So he can't deny and be like, "Oh, I took it from 15 years ago," or whatever.
Right.
And Husted was already in political office when the Strauss affair, if you want to call it that, let's call it rapes, were going on at Ohio State. You think he did anything about it? He did not. When it comes to Epstein and it comes to Wexner and their relationship,
What role was he in?
so he's been in a number of roles because he's a little bit of a whore who will, shockingly, who would do anything to. He was Speaker of the House here in Ohio. I believe he was in the state house at the time, which I can look up very easily. But he ended up becoming Speaker of the House. Then he became Secretary of State. Then he became where he suppressed votes, and that's what I was going to say. Not the normal kind of, because in states like this, Florida, your state, Indiana, certainly places like that, they win by cheating all the time, and we just don't talk about it. We just sort of accept that it's built in a way that we shouldn't. Like when people go out to vote, they spend their time. If Ohio is a classic example. If you don't vote 2 elections in a row, they purge you from the election rolls, And then, of course, you have to go and get yourself put back into the system, and you may not even know you were taken out. So, of course, they don't notify you.
Right.
And so I know, and I have only missed one election in my life. I like to point this out. It's because I was flying home to New York because my dad died that day. I think that's a kind of a legitimate reason to miss an election.
I don't know,
Um,
Cliff.
I know. I know. Well, if I'd missed a second one after that for some other reason, they
Yeah.
could have just kicked me off the voter rolls. They do this all the time, and I don't know what if it's 1%, 2%, 3%, but there's simply no doubt that some of these elections that come down to, Republican wins by like 67 votes, or Republican wins by 412 votes, they stole it. If a
Right.
Republican
Because
wins by anything less than 1%, in states where there's Republican secretaries of state, you can be
yeah.
pretty sure they would not have won it.
Yeah, because this is what they do. They cull the list like
Right.
constantly. They're constantly grooming people off of the list, just like the rapists are grooming the kids.
Yes.
The secretaries of state in these Republican states are grooming the list to get as many people peeled off of it legitimately as they possibly can. So it's
And
the
why?
opposite of motor voter. It's the opposite of the thing that we grew up
Exactly.
with in the 80s, right?
And actually, when Bill Clinton passed the motor voter law, that is when the Republican Party first began the conspiracies about illegals voting and people
Right.
who were unregistered. And guess who that was? Do you want to guess who that was? Newt Gingrich.
There you go.
Everybody's
That guy.
favorite Goodyear balloon, was was the one who did it. So whenever I point back pre-Trump and I say he didn't come out of nowhere, it took Newt Gingrich, it took the
Right.
torturers of the Bush administration,
Lee
it took
Atwater and
Mitch
Karl
McConnell,
Rove
it took
and
yes,
yep,
they
all the
they
operators.
they made it so that he was possible. So that you're right. It's the opposite of it. So that's what they started doing after motor voter because they're like, well, if it's much easier for people to vote, we're going to have to find a way to cheat even better. Well, now we've got a guy who is threatening in many ways. He's like, we don't even need elections. And Steve Bannon's talking about ICE going in and surrounding polling places. And we've been talking about that on this channel for 6 months now because it's the most obvious thing in the world. It's quite clear when you in a deep red Texas district when there's a 32-point switch. When you haven't won in 30 years and you're a Democrat in Miami and you win in a mayor's race and you win by 20 points, pretty fucking clear they're in deep crap. So what do? Of course, they can't just do the normal suppress it by 2 points or whatever. They are going to have to find ways to get much, much more aggressive, which
Right.
is why I'm not getting like to get back to where this began. If there's anything like close to a fair election and the world is not like shaken up by something that we haven't seen yet, and again, there's always a chance something crazy happened and Democrats did this or that, whatever. But unless something like that happens, they will be destroyed. Like I would tell you right now. So to get back to Houston, over $100,000 from Les Wexner. Every Republican in the state of Ohio has taken money from Les Wexner. Every elected Republican
Right.
he has given money to. It's just how much. And then, of course, in Husted's case, Husted, who was in office and ignored the Richard Strauss scandal, Husted, who ignored the Epstein scandal and took all this money from Wexner, and now wants to become a U.S. senator.
And
I would
I
tell
just want to
you,
be clear.
you know, who didn't
Was
take money from Les Wexner? Sherrod
Sherrod
Brown
Brown.
did
Yeah.
not take a
Yeah.
cent.
Let's be clear about that. Also, it's February of 2026, and Husted took money from him in 2025, the year that just the year
That was
that
last
we
year.
all absolutely knew the Epstein files were a thing, and that Les Wexner was intimately connected.
Yeah, right. I know it seems like years ago in
Yeah,
Trump's
right,
time,
ages ago.
but it wasn't. We knew the connections between Les Wexner and I know because I've been reading about it closely out of interest because he's in this state and he's played an outsized role in this state because of his wealth. Like I've been reading about it for a couple of years now. Everybody's known he was tied to Epstein. So now, if you had any integrity and you even had a question if somebody was tied to a international child trafficker, you don't take their money. It's a pretty simple.
I mean, once again, we're in a space where we could say, if this was any Democrat, right? Like if there were a Democratic donor that was tied to a child pedophilia ring and any fucking Democrat in the country had taken a dime from them every single one of those people would lose. Like, and the media there would be a firestorm in the media. But we're fighting to hear coverage of, Wexner's deposition today and
Yep.
and how this web of horrors is all connected to Ohio.
And that's the thing is, there are people here like Wexner who maybe tied to 2 pedophile rings, or maybe it's 1 and we didn't know they were connected.
Right.
Maybe there's there's partnership benefits or something. Like, you guys are just our partners in this. Let's all be awful, like the worst fucking human beings alive together, and
Right. We're gonna buy that school photo company and we're gonna use it as a menu. If you like the boys, it goes to this side. If you like the girls, it goes, like.
And as my friend Lefty Gramps said here, who's from Ohio, of course, that is why they keep yelling about Bill Clinton, because, and I ask again, the best source on this, Ellie Leonard, again and again, because I don't want to be biased at all. I worked for Bill Clinton in 96. I think Bill Clinton overall, in a dark time when Republicans had won 3 presidential elections in a row, there's a lot of what he was for at that time I would very much disagree with. Now, some of that is times have changed.
Right.
So things like the death penalty and things like that seems so, to me, horrific now. Back then were much more like it was mainstream in the Democratic Party. This is, again, and I'm being objective here. I'm not making excuses because I would sit here and decry his personal behavior and say that I find it disgusting. Like the stuff that we know he did.
Right.
Even with
people
of age.
I'm a Democrat who voted for Clinton and who also, when it became clear that he had lied under oath about having sex with Monica Lewinsky, I was one of the people who wanted him impeached because I thought, my God, Cliff, a president has lied under oath. No greater crime has ever been committed in the Oval Office.
Look at little naive Lawrence at the time. You see, I did not, because I worked in this business and I knew that Newt Gingrich was already at that time cheating on his second wife with his now third wife, the one that looks like the one who looks like she has Kash Patel's eyes or she's a Stepford something, who, of course, in just irony or for fun, they made the ambassador to the Vatican because that's hilarious. Hi, I'm that guy's third wife. Well, yeah, that water balloon, that human water balloon, Newt Gingrich left his first wife with a letter while she was in the hospital with cancer, or a little note like, "I'm leaving you and going to my second wife." And then when she and his second wife with his third wife. So the fact that Bill Clinton and they engineered it all, and the person who helped engineer it is, why, of course, Ken Starr, who is also all over the Epstein files, because
oh my God, I'm shocked. I'm shocked to find that there are pedophiles in these Epstein files.
So to me, that whole thing, it was so illegitimate to begin with.
Yeah.
With Gingrich and Starr and this and Brett Kavanaugh, getting drunk with Squee and Petey and the guys while he's lifting weights and his debt disappearing. Where'd that go? Who knows? And Susan Collins, by the way, right now is defending her vote for Brett Kavanaugh. So
she's very concerned.
In Maine, remember that.
She's very concerned.
I guess she got the advice that don't apologize for it. Just get it. I hope we fucking smoke her politically. Yeah. But
let me ask you this. Do you think that the average Ohioan understands this at this level yet? Do you think
I don't think yet, but I think they're going to. If you saw the free media, as we call it in this business, there's earned media, which is also free media, and there's paid media. Paid media is when you run ads. Earned media, free media is when you get people to cover it in the press. We have we have overall. The Cleveland Plain Dealer used to be sort of center right, and they were one of the best newspapers the entire last election when they came out and said, we're going to cover this fairly, and we're not going to pretend that before Biden dropped out is the same as Trump. One of them tried to overthrow the country and is a convict. The other one makes mistakes, and we'll point out when he does. So I was very proud of them, but that was almost shocking because they had been sort of center right. The Columbus Dispatch has always been conservative, and the Cincinnati Enquirer was fucking nuts. Now, even the Enquirer has jumped off of they wouldn't support Trump, but they support so many other Republicans that support Trump that it doesn't much matter. And so the fact that Sinclair owns at least one station in Cincinnati, numerous stations across the state, the fact that and the talk radio, the fact that in this state that the free media out there right now that you can read multiple different publications and see Wexner, Epstein, Husted, Jim Jordan, Strauss, all this stuff being tied together is a big fucking deal, as Joe Biden once said about something else. I mean, it means that it is going to reach people because obviously Sherrod Brown's people are smart enough that they are making sure everybody knows this about Houston. But so they're doing paid media behind it, but there's free media behind it too everywhere. So I don't think it's saturated it yet, but it'll be in YouTube ads, and it'll be in on Spotify. It'll be in all people will know, and the fact that every
I just
Republican
had an idea. We need to make you some Epstein, Ohio bingo shirts, right? A bingo card with all of the Ohio Epstein connections on it. It's the bingo card you can win in so many different directions because they're all in there.
I will wear it happily on this show if we can find the exact right design, Lawrence, to do
there
that.
You go.
So I mean, again, and like I even have to look here because I want to make sure I didn't. God, Richard Strauss, that doctor who I'm glad is fucking dead, who raped wrestlers. It looks like the creepiest motherfucker in the world. Oh no, I did miss something else. Gordon Gee, and if I'm mispronouncing his name, I don't give a shit. Former president of Ohio State. This son of a bitch, who I wish I fucking would get a chance to talk to directly to his face, came out and who, by the way, was president of Ohio State. The fact that again, these people, all these elites, all just walk free from this kind of stuff. Yep. He was president of Ohio State towards the end of when the Richard Strauss shit was going on. How did he come in as president in the middle of it, and when people knew everywhere and not know anything? I'd love to know the answer to that question, Gordon Gee, but I'd also love to know how he's not defending Les Wexter and saying the reason why people are trying to take his name off of buildings in Ohio State is because of, quote, cancel culture. Fuck you. Is my answer to that. I mean, people have had their lives destroyed. People, young girls who became women have committed suicide. People lost their children. Okay, how could you callous son of a bitch, honestly? And your response to all that, it's cancel culture. They're taking his face off, his name off of buildings. There are people that have to now go forward in life without their daughters. But Les Wexter's going to have to live without his name on buildings. Oh, gee, Gordon, could you start a GoFundMe for him? Could you help him out? Could you? I mean, what an absolute piece of trash. Honestly, the fact that guy was ever president of a major university, I don't know what he's doing now. I'll look it up, though, because I'd like to send him a nice message. One that will, of course, be very clear that I don't believe in committing acts of violence and anything of that nature, and just that I think he's a pile of human garbage. And the fact that he ever ran that place. I mean, Ohio State needs a steam cleaning at this point. Is what it needs. And I have nothing against the school. Like, David, if David were here, he'd be all pro Michigan, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he'd do it about this because David's a serious enough journalist to understand that this is not about competitions between places. I got nothing against it. I do have one family member who went there. I didn't go there, and most of the close family did not go there and whatever, but it's become a really good institution for academics and everything. But how can you be when you have a president who wants a rapist's name to remain on buildings? You have a professor who was being paid off and people had to know by Epstein and they were okay with it. When you have Jim Jordan and Richard Strauss there and everybody looked the other way, they've got 30 years of answers to give for how all of this happened. It's repulsive. And again, like the political part of it is important, but the political part is important because these people need to not be in positions of power anymore. They need to lose. It's not partisan, Democrat or Republican. Bill Gates wasn't a Republican, and he's fucking disgusting. And I don't want to ever hear his goddamn name again. Brumler, the one who was the Goldman Sachs attorney, I'm glad she lost her job. She should be in prison for a lot of the rest of her life.
Right. And she was an Obama.
And she was under Obama. So unlike Republicans, the difference is I'm not partisan about this, but what I do, but there is a connection between these right-wing authoritarian values, these people that get off on torturing people and harming people, the cruelty and the whatever. There's a psychosexual thing there, and this is part of it. It's a power thing, and there's definitively a connection, and these people need to fucking go away from being in positions of power. So it's not like, the political thing should be the most important part, but it is important because we cannot have them with this kind of power in our lives here. John Husted cannot have this kind of power. Jim Jordan cannot have this kind of power. Gordon Gee, whoever the fuck he is, cannot have this kind of power. And it's just that simple.
Well,
and
and
Les
if for
Wexner.
nothing else than the idea that if you are plausibly accused of the crime, you can't possibly be associated with being the people who defend against it, right? Like you can't be on the list of the accused and then also, be in government and be the one responsible for investigating and finding some resolution to it. There's an inherent conflict of interest there.
Yep. Look, Sherrod Brown has always known what he believed, what he's about. He's got the canary pin on, the canary in the coal mine. He's been a workers first guy. He never took a cent from Les Wexner because he wouldn't take money from billionaires and people like that. And I'm just saying, to me, if they don't find a way to massively, like, not just suppress a few percent, but ice the vote, so to speak, and pull other kinds of crimes to stop the vote, I would tell you right now, I think Sherrod Brown beats him by 10 points easy. Destroy
Amazing.
him, because people forget Sherrod Brown only lost by 3 when Kamala Harris lost here by 11. That's how much he overperformed by. But I would also tell you, every Republican in this state, this could be a reckoning for them. It could undo the way they cheated and gerrymandered themselves into power and suppressed votes and everything else they've done, because they all took Epstein money. And Les Wexner again gave Epstein power of attorney over his money.
Yeah.
It's a simple connection. We have the awesome Kurt Bardella joining us right now. My friend,
Hey.
Kurt Bardella. Sorry,
Hello,
I'm in the
Kurt.
middle of an angry rant because honestly, like, the Richard Strauss, Jim Jordan scandal is actually apparently maybe tied to the Epstein scandal. A judge decided that Wexner has to be deposed in that case.
Mhm.
This guy may have been involved in or known about 2 different ones going on. And I'm sitting here, I live in Cincinnati, I'm not in Columbus, but I'm sitting in the state of Ohio. Like, is there a Republican in my state who hasn't enabled pedophiles? I'm wondering. A billionaire, at least a powerful Republican, right? A billionaire,
Right.
the head of a university, actual politicians. John Huston, who took over $100,000 including last year, took money from him. We've known about this relationship with Wexner and Epstein now for a number of years. So he can't be like, I took it when I didn't know. I don't know, Kurt. You tell me. Like, is there a place I know? I love Cincinnati. Right now. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the city of Columbus, and I may just want to skip it whenever I go anywhere. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of all this insanity? Because this web is so big. I mean, it's crazy.
It raises it's like you said, it's like, is there anyone who isn't that's in the elite powerful class of rarefied air that isn't tangentially aware, connected to this? I mean, we're talking about everyone from Bill Gates to Prince Andrew to Donald
Yeah.
Trump to Steve Bannon to people at Harvard, Goldman Sachs. I mean, you think of
Larry
all
Summers. Yeah, right.
all the brokers of power and the institutions of power that exist, not just in this country but around the world. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon is nothing. It seems like there's 1 degree separation between
Right.
that and again, Ro Khanna is spot on. It's the Epstein class.
It is.
And
Well, I mean,
it's
if you
hard.
look, yeah, is he the one who said it, or it may have been someone else? I think it may have been Dan Goldman who called it the Epstein cabinet. I mean, that guy,
Yeah.
right? Zampoli or whatever, the one who's doing a great job at the Trump Kennedy Center, which no longer exists now because nobody would play at the place.
They're
He's
renovating
in there.
it,
The
Cliff.
Melania producer. Yeah, he's in there. And, I mean, obviously, Howard Lutnick, I lived 6 or 7 steps away, but I never went to the island. Okay, I went to the island and I brought my kids, but my kids left
Yeah.
with me. Like, he bragged about that. Like, you're a really good guy. You didn't leave
You
your
took
kids
your
there.
kids to
great
a
dad.
pedophile
Yeah.
island. Well
Right.
done. Father
Right.
of the year stuff right there.
Yeah.
Right. You left other kids. You knew other kids who they were
Right.
being preyed on. You just made sure your own kids came back with you. You're wonderful. And that's the thing is, what I was saying is, and I'd love to hear from you because people don't know Kurt's background. Kurt was a Republican. He was the spokesperson for Darrell Issa back in the day at Oversight, and now he's doing some really good stuff. Kurt reminds me in all the right ways of Joe Walsh, who's a friend. in that there are some folks who I think maybe it was expeditious at times and to change. And I think there are other people who I know because I just feel like I've gotten to know them and I know who they are. Who and I remember when I didn't know you and saw your name in the media along the way where you left Breitbart because they defended Lewandowski, when he assaulted one of their female reporters,
Mhm.
and, and another name that's been coming up lately. But you along the way were just like, this is horrific, and you got away from the whole thing. And you know, I mean, my feeling is it's powerful people everywhere, but there
Yeah.
is this sort of tie-in between it where you see it seemed to be more on the right, and I'm not even saying I don't care about partisan affiliation. I'm just talking about this right-wing authoritarian sort of bent of the same types of guys that enjoy cruelty, enjoy
Yeah.
watching ICE beat people up and kill them, enjoy the torture that went on under the Bush administration, enjoy, and frankly, Trump obviously rendition to El Salvador. There's a connection there.
Well,
And
I've always said the cruelty is the point.
yep,
People look around and go like, "Oh my God, how can people condone this? How can people look the other way?" It's like you're missing the point. Like being cruel and laughing at it and mocking others who are mortified by it. That's the entire point because they believe, and there is a direct link between cruelty and fascism and authoritarianism.
yep,
They believe that by so outwardly being willing to engage in, condone, conduct these abhorrent acts, that it will send the message that to anyone who is even thinking about resisting or speaking out or condemning, this could happen to you. The inherent undertone of all of this, whether it's ICE, whether it's the financial cronyism that we see, the outright corruption that we see, is that we are so powerful, we are above the law, and that you could be next. So either shut up and get in line,
yep,
or you will suffer the same fate, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. That is the air of which they are trying to project every time they take down a Renee Good, every time they arrest a Don Lemon, every time they cover up something in the Epstein files. That's exactly what they're trying to tell everyone.
right. And the ICE guys have joked about. I mean, they just seem to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like it's part of it. You're absolutely right. A big part of it is don't mess with me, and I'm going to show you what happens. And then there's just this sadistic part, and you see
Right.
it with Trump, like the
They
bloodlust.
stripped Alex Preddy's body so that they could count the bullet holes. Like
Yeah.
that's just not sadistic. That's fucking gross. Like
But
that's
but they will be
inhumane.
on Sunday in their church pews congratulating themselves on being great Christians.
Yes,
Right.
it's
Right.
exactly what Jesus talked about with lepers, and who got into heaven.
Jesus
It
would
was
be detained by ICE in this version of the Republican Party and sent to
actually he'd be
Alligator
crucified.
Alcatraz.
He'd probably
Like
be
my God.
crucified by this version of the Republican Party if we wanted to be honest. Yeah, I mean, did you ever? I have to, and again, you've talked about some of these things before, whatever you're comfortable talking about. But did you see some of these traits, any of this with Daryl Issa or some of the folks around Daryl Issa when you were there?
The answer is no. It's interesting because I came up at a time where, we were George W. Bush Republicans. The words
Yep.
compassionate conservatism were how we branded the big tent Republican Party
Right.
was a thing. And Isa was very, he represented the Southern California district. So there was all heavy Latino population, heavy immigrant population. He actually got in trouble with his base because he authored a comprehensive immigration guest worker bill, because Daryl, being from a business background, understood like, yeah, we're going to
Right.
need these workers for the
Yep.
economy to work the way that you want it to. He was very pragmatic when it came to policy, not ideologically driven. The version that I see now on TV is completely different. The pandering to the right, the MAGA cosplay that unfolds now. I think to myself, man, the version of you that I knew 15, 16 years ago wouldn't recognize the version that I see now. And I think that's so true for so many in the
Yep.
Republican Party. And I think that's the most disheartening thing. I expect what I see from Donald Trump. I expect what I see from Stephen Miller. They've always been this way. It's
Yeah.
the people that I know better that think differently, that talk shit about him behind their backs when the cameras aren't rolling, that whine and complain to fellow Democrats, like, can you believe this guy? He's nuts. I can't believe they're doing this. This is horrible. But then go on Fox News and pretend like he's the greatest thing in the world and kiss his ass. It's like the old adage, corruption of the best is the worst. And it's the
Yep.
people that have known better the entire time and is still because they wanted to cling to power, because they wanted to cling to their public office,
Or money,
because
or
they
yeah.
needed the money, the fame, whatever it might be, sold out the best interest of this country for their own personal gain and benefit. And it's like Lindsey Graham knows better. John McCain's best friend. He knows better.
Right.
Yep. Yep. I was on a show with this writer. He wrote a book. His name was J.D. Vance back in 2015, 16. It was an NPR show. It was also another journalist, and we were discussing things. And on that show, which I made sure to push out there at the time when he was picked, he said that he hoped Trump would lose and Trump was a danger. He didn't say every one of those quotes that's come out about him being Hitler or whatever, but he said out loud he hoped Trump would lose. We'd be better off. And look at him now.
Yeah, I mean, look at guys like Ted Cruz. This guy, Trump went on national TV and made fun of your wife and your father.
Right.
And
called his dad basically a killer and his wife ugly. But that's exactly the kind of guy
that's the guy that you line up with. And then these guys want to try to tell us what real men are. What
Right.
being a real man in America is. It's like, oh, a real man in America looks the other way while someone insults your wife, looks the other way while you run conspiracy theories about your parents' lineage and runs your name into the ground. And a real man just says, yes, sir, may I have another? Like, okay. I guess that's your version of masculinity. Okay.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Marco Rubio looking down as Zelensky's being berated because Marco Rubio might have been one of the most vocally pro-Ukraine Republicans when he was still a senator and, spoke, I guess, for himself, and was one of the most vocal spokespeople behind USAID because he understood that soft power is national security, and also that maybe innocent kids and people dying is a bad thing. 600,000. A guy that's going to get $1 trillion package, and Elon Musk illegally went in, was elected to nothing, ended up, and now the estimate is 600,000 people have died because of that.
Jeez.
I mean,
but they're pro-life. They're pro-life.
Yes,
right. They're pro-life. Yes, and canceling the all of the PEPFAR. George W. Bush's, signature piece of legislation that helped folks with HIV and AIDS in Africa, right?
Yep.
By cutting off those medicines, you've basically created a mini genocide. You have created a holocaust of people who are going to die from that disease, which we were this close to actually getting under control and getting rid of in this world.
Hell, we got measles coming back now. They're going beyond AIDS.
All the oldies are coming back.
Yeah. Well, polio soon, and maybe the bubonic plague.
I was going to say,
like
bring
we've
back the
got
bubonic
government
plague
by
here
lunchroom bully, basically.
Yep. So let me ask. So I want to tell people what you're doing now, because I love when people are sort of like, "Hey, this was my expertise, and I don't like the manner in which I did it before. So I'm going to take that expertise and use it for good now." And I think that's exactly what you're doing, Kurt, which is awesome and commendable. And so why don't you tell folks about your new project that you're working on?
I spent a lot of last year not writing as much as I had previously because I was trying to figure out like where can my voice actually make a difference? Where can I say something and offer something that's original, that's useful, and can actually help be a vehicle to try to change things and certainly direct Democrats into the right direction. And the more that I saw what Donald Trump was doing and just the flagrant level of corruption that we're seeing unfold, the more I thought, man, like, what are the oversight guys doing? Where are the oversight guys? Where are the watchdogs? And again, being that former oversight committee guy for Republicans, it's like, I know what the playbook is because I created it. Why aren't Democrats using the playbook? It's kind of driving me nuts. And then I thought, well, maybe someone should volunteer the playbook, actually. So
please help us, Kurt, because our party doesn't seem to have that gene where, the one where you stick the knife in at the end, metaphorically.
Right. And so I started something called the Watchdog Report on Substack, and it's not rocket science, but 3 times a week I publish something. On Monday it's called the Agenda, Here's what Democrats in Congress, even in the minority, not being in the majority, here's what you can do right now to get oversight, accountability, and be a check and balance on this administration. On Wednesday, I published the report, which is here's what Democrats did. Like, and I'm not good, bad, or indifferent. Here's some of the things that they have done because I want to acknowledge that they're trying. It's not like they're doing nothing. Some things are good, some things don't land, but like they're trying. So you should know what they're actually doing. And then on Friday, I published something called the list, and the list is about what we do when we take back the reins of power in November, because the Donald Trump administration is banking on the fact that they will do so much that we won't remember a year from now who did what and who should be held accountable, because who's keeping track of that stuff? Well,
Yeah.
I am. I'm going to remember a year from now that a week ago, DC attorney Judge Jeanine Pirro filed a motion in DC court to try to expunge Steve Bannon's record. What the fuck is that about?
I mean, he's
Bannon, who's all
criminal,
over the Epstein
but-
files, by the
right.
way.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
but,
he is.
you know,
In
I'm
fact,
gonna
he
re-
actually offered to try to help rehabilitate his image, such as the populism of Steve
Right.
Bannon.
That's the person that U.S. Attorney Judge Jeanine Pirro is trying to get the record clean for. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember the lobbying firm that Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi used to work at is become the go-between to get no-bid contracts for their cronies to do the technology surveillance and profiling for ICE, to give them the technology to target people. Like, I'm going to remember that. That's what, like, this is the list, and I keep the list static. Every day, every week, I add a new name to it, but I keep the other ones there.
So you keep the stuff there. That's awesome, because that's
Yeah.
good, because that, we don't want any of it going down the memory hole.
Exactly, because I want, on day one, Democrats, when you take back the majority, to get to work. Don't spend a month pissing away trying to organize and trying to figure out what to do. And it's like, have the agenda on day one. If you learn anything from Republicans, and there's a lot to learn from them tactically.
Yeah.
They did Project 2025 because they knew on day one they were going to start running rush out over everything, and no one would be able to stop them. Democrats need to meet that moment with the same agenda, the same energy, the same focus, and the same tactical precision.
No, look, at almost everything I can think of in life, Republicans are bad at it. They're bad at governing. They're bad at compassion, right? Like they're bad at coming up with any new programs that address anything. They're bad at national security. I can go on forever. But the one thing they're really good at is politics. They are very good at creating a message, repeating a message, making sure like those same talking points. I mean, even when they say something stupid, that they're sharing talking points like the stock market is at $50,000, and it's like Bondi says it one day and then Navarro saying it the next day, because somebody made that mistake, because these people, again, what else do they suck at? Writing and editing. But they sent it out and two people repeated it because that's what they do. And we just, the way we don't, I've been screaming about this forever as a messaging guy, as someone who wrote ads and did PR and whatever, like, there's a narrative structure. You create a narrative about your opponents. It's easy with Republicans, sadly, because it's based on truth. I mean, in any way you can be, the way I put it, a predator, they're predators. It's not just the Epstein stuff.
Right.
They're private equity guys. They're financial predators that come and take over your distressed company, load you up with debt, steal your pension, leave you out for the vultures, right? They're predators on democracy, destroying institutions of democracy, our ability to vote, and a million other things. I mean, just this is what they do. They prey on things. The healthcare guys, right? We've got all sorts of groups of people, bean counters, are rejecting your claim when it's supposed to be accepted. I mean, this is
the thing is, like, Republicans are really good at storytelling and creating heroes and villains. Democrats love to explain. They love to explain. They love to explain their policies. They love to explain their virtues. They love to explain why their way is better. They want you to fall in love with them and marry them and live happily ever after.
Especially if you work at the New York Times. You've got
Republicans are fine with the hit and quit it relationship, because Republicans get that they only need you one day every 2 to 4 years to vote with them. That's it. And the rest of the time, they're embracing a WWE style of storytelling that is incredibly effective.
Oh my God. And you know it too, because you were a country music fan. And I remember, I feel like I saw you write a piece on, some of those comparisons. I mean, look, whether we want it to be or not, it's show business at this point. You
Yes.
know, and you need to be able to play. First of all, you need to be able to appeal to people on a stage and play a role and all that. But what you're saying is exactly right too, which is again, I say this all the time. We evolved as a species telling stories around the fireplace. We didn't
Mhm.
have the internet, we didn't have TV or radio or whatever. We told stories. Any good story, there's a problem. There's a
Yep.
villain who caused that problem. There's a good guy who's going to come in, swoop in, and say, I mean, how do you think comics were created? Save you from that problem. And
Right.
every story, we should be casting a narrative that way. Here's what's wrong. They're the bad guys because they did this in emotional language. Don't give numbers as to what they do. Talk about who they
Yes.
destroyed. Tell stories. And then the story of who we are and how many people
Right.
we've helped. I mean, I look at that stat. I could pull it up. I've done it before. That, in the last, was it 35, 4, I think it was 40 years, Democrats have created 97% of the jobs in
Mhm.
this country. Now, you could give that one stat and then move past it. Because imagine if that was Republicans, they would tell that
Oh, yeah.
and then tell individual stories to back it up,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Of a worker who came here, on a boat from wherever, of somebody who grew up in poverty, and didn't have running water, and now they've made it to tell the story. These are the people we've created jobs for. Make it flesh and blood. They're human beings. They're not, and we don't. And I
Yeah. I
don't
mean, it's
understand it.
maddening. And again, it's like, and I think about this because, we just came off President's Day weekend, and I'll share with you how I spent mine. On Friday, I went to Friday Night SmackDown, WWE Friday Night SmackDown here in Dallas at the American Airlines Arena. Watched some interesting storytelling being told of, right before my very eyes.
Mhm.
Saturday night, I was in Fort Worth at the world's largest honky tonk, Billy Bob's, watching a new artist, Priscilla Bach, perform. Saturday,
You're an urban
I
cowboy, my friend.
Sunday, I road trip to San Antonio, to the San Antonio Rodeo, to watch Brad Paisley perform. Um, that in that period of time, I was probably in proximity to more than 100,000 people,
Sure.
and I saw people of all stripes: white, black, Asian, Latino, young, old, rich, poor, generations. Um, and in watching these cultural touch points that these, what I really consider to be everyday Americans, are experiencing with their families, I think to myself, is there anything right now that the Democratic Party is saying that would appeal to these people? And if the answer to that is no, that is the answer to why Democrats lose when they should win. That is the
Yeah.
answer to why Ted Cruz gets reelected year after year, despite being wildly unpopular as a human being. Right?
Right.
Right.
Why,
You'll
why,
appeal to emotion. The thing is that, yeah. And, the sad thing is there probably are some things Democrats are saying they would appeal to them, but it never would get to them because we're saying it in such a wonky way. We're not telling stories. We haven't bothered to build the infrastructure. We're trying here, right, to a certain degree, but we haven't done that. And so it's so much harder to get any message like that to them because there are stories we could tell and messages
right.
again about what we've done for their lives. But
Well,
yeah,
and
go
think
ahead.
about this. On Tuesday night, Democrats will have the opportunity to tell a story when they give the Democratic response to the State of the Union. It is televised on every network right after the president's State of the Union address. So it's on NBC, ABC, CBS, every cable channel, across the board simulcast. What story are we going to tell? Are we going to parade up another moderate politician who won't offend anybody to say 15 minutes of something that we won't even remember, frankly,
Milk
a
toast,
year
milk
from
toast,
now?
milk toast, milk toast. Yeah,
Like,
right.
or will they recognize, coming off of speech in which Donald Trump will flagrantly lie for 2 hours, where he will mock, he will again show his worst impulses. He will pretend like Renee Good wasn't murdered. He will pretend like the Epstein files don't exist at all and that he's not in them
Mhm.
in any way.
ICE will be
Uh,
heroes, and
he will
yeah,
hold up Pam Bondi as a pillar of justice.
Mhm.
What is the
he's
Democrat
a
response
pillar of
going to be?
something, but not justice.
What I would like the Democrat response to be is, instead of going to, all right, let's go to Democrat response. And again, it's Senator so and so staring at an empty room at a camera, because that's really
Mark
exciting.
Warner.
What if instead
Empty.
we went to the National Mall and it was every Democrat in Congress who boycotted the State of the Union standing there, with survivors of Epstein's carnage, with survivors of ICE's, assaults, and the victims and their families? And what if it was Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, Republican and Democrat, saying, tonight, instead of giving you a laundry list of priorities, instead of rebutting every lie Donald Trump just told you, we're going to give this platform to the victims of ICE and the victims of Epstein to tell you why justice matters and what justice should look like, and let them tell their
Seems like
story.
you're creating something that has some, like stagemanship, so to speak,
Right.
and has some entertainment so that people would be, and storytelling and tugs at your emotional heartstrings. It's almost like it's too good. So
Yeah.
they're going to
So
reject
it
it.
won't
Kurt.
happen.
So there's no chance the Democrats will do
Zero
that.
chance they're going to do that.
We're
But
going to
Do we know
find
who
a
the response is
professor.
yet?
We're going to find a computer science professor somewhere in the bowels of a academic institution. Bring them out and be like, draw on a chart why Democrats are better, and
Right.
we'll
right.
and
Or
we'll
maybe
explore.
we'll have a
Right.
senator in
In
her
binary.
kitchen, or it's just like,
That's a
why
brilliant.
not?
I mean, seriously, that is a brilliant idea.
That is brilliant. Put this guy in charge.
I know.
Do,
Seriously,
do we
Can you,
know
like,
yet who's giving the response? Has that been announced?
They have not announced it yet. They have not announced
Okay.
it yet.
I mean, again, we've
I'm
got a
sure it'll be
whole.
riveting.
But that's what's so frustrating is like we've got a whole. We when I don't sit here and just insult Democrats, I do go after leadership because they've failed and they don't understand the moment and they don't know how to communicate. I do go after certain people who have aided and abetted that, who I just, and ignored Republican transgressions, and we're just like, nope, we'll do it the old. Oh, they forced on a Supreme Court judge and didn't give us a vote. Let's stick with the blue slips. That's Dick Durbin for you, and never called Clarence Thomas before the committee. At least it doesn't matter. People don't get whether he goes. They can't win either way, Republicans, because if they reject it, it becomes a story, and at least it's out there that they're too scared to show up and to defend what they've done. And this is all messaging. This is all narrative creating. But I will also point out, I can think of 24 easily Democrats who could kill it getting up and doing that if given the chance.
Right.
And we won't pick, because of that, we won't pick any of them. That's
Right.
what upsets me, because we have talent. We just don't seem
Yeah.
to want to use
I
it.
also just think, just from a staging standpoint, you can't go from the live element of Donald Trump and just the president of the United States in the House floor and all the trappings of
Pageantry and
that,
yeah.
Yeah.
to an empty room and someone just talking to a camera. Like, the energy, it's so this way.
Yep.
Already fighting a losing battle. That's why you got to change up the staging of it.
Wait, what
Yep.
if we did Katie Britt from her kitchen?
Hey,
We just
that's
let her
a-
respond. That would be awesome. I'm not crazy.
We should just replay that.
We
I'm
should.
a mother. Did I mention I'm a mother? I'm a mother.
It actually would be funny if we started off and just did a snippet, like for a few seconds of that. I think actually that would show we had a sense of humor. It would be good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, it's funny because you bring up what you brought up, Kurt, and I will defend this any day of the week, which is I'm not a WWE guy. Nothing against you for it, but I'll admit to mine thing that people can make fun of me for. I watch every cheesy 80s action flick. Like, you can find any of it, and to me, watch a good, and it's not really good, but watch a violent Jean-Claude Van Damme flick, and you'll get all the messaging you need. They make it very clear emotionally in those things. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? It's always regular people who are being harmed by some cabal of mafiosa or some corrupt government officials or some corporation or whatever. And you need this guy. It used to be Steven Seagal, though. He's good friends with Putin now, so I'm a little less apt to watch him. But, you've got Jean-Claude Van Damme or Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's one of us now. He chose the right side, and people like that who are fighting for those folks. And I find those action movies, they should literally force Democrats who want to communicate to sit down and watch them and be like, can you take in here who the good guy is? Is the music and the violence and the blood and the whatever not enough so that you know who's good, who's bad, what the problem is, who's going to fix it? It's all
Look,
right
come
there.
on, man. Where are we going to find a giant evil cabal doing harm in the world? Like,
I have to really look hard for that.
yeah.
They
yeah,
even morph into
that's-
each other. All right, so Kurt, we're running out of time, but we got to get this across to everybody. Because this is really important. So a question, because Lawrence is sort of starting this project called the Imagination Project, where we're all going to think of what should things look like, and forget about being held back by the reality of our current situation. Have some imagination. That's what the right did in the 50s and the 60s when they were People thought, I mean, people were talking about conservatism like it was a mental disorder, right? And look where they are now. And yours sounds a little bit like that. So when you do your thing on Monday and you do your thing on Wednesday, do you find the Wednesday one they actually do, like, what percentage of what you said they should do on Monday do they actually do? And I'm scared to ask this.
I think it's it's better than you would think. I think it's probably like a 33%.
Wow.
Like, which is higher than you would think.
I would have guessed more like 8%. So okay, I'm
And
feeling
I have to
good.
credit the like I have a really good relationship with people like ranking member at the Oversight Committee Robert Garcia, with Jamie Raskin's
Easy.
team over at
Excellent.
Judiciary,
There
with
you
the
go.
Rokanas, Eric Swalwell's, Ted Lieu's, Castros who sit on those committees, and so
Literally just named like 4 people I'd make leader tomorrow. If
yes,
you're,
exactly,
yesterday.
and it's those
Did you
people
tell them
who
your idea about the
I
response
have.
to the state?
I have shared my thoughts with them and left in their capable, able hands.
Excellent.
And so it's through those type of people that we all I know have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for that are able to move the needle and understand that we're in a different era of politics and communications who get it. Those are the folks that again, the reason why I write this is because those are the type of people I'm trying to arm with good ideas to take to the leadership. You can't beat something with nothing, and so I want to try to be a vehicle for those conversations, to have those ideas, to give them proactive things they could keep doing, because it's a lot easier to knock someone over who's not moving versus someone who's moving forward.
Yep, exactly. Momentum, baby. We hope to see if we can work together some stuff. I mean, this whole, Blue Amp was founded around amplifying blue, good voices on our side, but also really what this has become is pointing out, the fascism that people don't, even in places people don't know what's going on, things that aren't going on. The billionaire power structures, sadly, they've made that very easy for us with the whole Epstein thing, calling out corporate media for its absolute failure, and then calling out, when Democratic leadership and messaging is weak. Because to me, those 4 things are the 4 biggest reasons I can find why we're here. And you're doing one of those, a service, more than one really, by doing that. So, if there are ways we can share what you're doing, I would love to do that. Where can folks find you? What is the URL, if you will?
Yeah, the watchdog report.substack.com. That's where it all is.
Okay, so the Watchdog Report. That's
Yeah.
.substack. I can't speak English. It's like I'm doing tequila talk or something. The Watchdog Report.substack.com. Are you on any other platforms where you want folks to find you, or is that?
I'm on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. My name, Kurt Bardella, KurtBardella. Not a hard guy to find.
No, you are not scared of speaking out, and there aren't a ton of Kurt Bardellas out there. I don't know. So
sadly not. I wish there were. I could go do something else if there were.
You could just like get more sleep that way and have them.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, man, this is a long time, coming, because we used to do a regular show together. It's been like forever. And I know you took some time off, and I'm glad you did, to kind of think about things and really where you could make an impact, what you wanted to do. And we've all needed to take breaks at times, because I mean, watching this horror show has been again, you can't just turn it off. Like, if you think that particular Jean-Claude Van Damme movie isn't good enough, and you can turn it off, we can't do that here. It sucks. So no, in all seriousness, like, thank you for everything you're doing, man. And I'm glad you got on a bunch of. I saw you're on Acosta yesterday. You're on with our friend Miles Taylor. We've had them on. Wajad Ali, big fan. So you're getting this out there, I hope, and I'm sure. I've seen how you've done on every other platform. I'm sure you'll blow up here too. So let's do this again.
Yes,
I don't know if you do any live streams, but we'd love to join you at your place if you want us. But otherwise, then we'll just force your damn ass to come back here.
I'm happy to anytime. I appreciate you sharing your platform with me and elevating my content and what I'm doing. I love that we have this space now where all of us, and again, we jokingly used to refer to ourselves as the Nerd Avengers, can go on and amplify and lift each other up. It's like we're not competitors, we're comrades in arms here. And
that's exactly it.
So
last thing I'll ask you, do you know if you're going to be there on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, folks. So if you haven't seen it, we'll share it. But Miles Taylor and Tara McGowan, who works with Courier News, put together this big counter SOTU kind of thing. Didiro is going to be there. Just need him to look into at my phone and just say, "You talking to me?" I gotta get that to my son Luke. But like, I gotta get that. But he's gonna be there, and like, Swalwell and Goldman and all of these sort of talented folks, like politicians, but a lot of the folks we just talked about, Brian Karam and Joe Walsh, and it should be an excellent event. We're going to live stream it once Lawrence, who's smarter than me technologically, helps me figure out how to do that. Tuesday night. So awesome. Great seeing you, Kurt. Thank you, Lawrence, for beyond admirably filling in. Maybe we should just Chuck Schecter and have you do this from now on. I don't know.
Don't say it out loud,
Cliff. Oh, sorry. Thank you both so much for being here. And hopefully great episode, and people have learned some things, and we'll go out and find Kurt and find Lawrence too, who also does this kind of thing. And as I always like to say when we end these shows, as the sun sets slowly in the west, my friends, I bid you a fond farewell.